After they somehow managed to beat the dungeon master possessed by the father of the cannibal tribe, they headed towards their home. Since it's night, there are still monsters outside, and although their blood attracts some monsters, they eventually manage to reach their home without having to fight. When they are just outside the door to the room, Gamdol notices that Hee-Ra has collapsed just after she climbed the stairs. When Hee-Ra woke up, she finds Chukbuk beside her calling her out, but she mistook her as someone named Su-Ah. Chukbuk thought Hee-Ra forgot her and says to not get hurt or to forget her, but it's too late now. Hee-Ra asks her to get off of her as she is injured and her whole body hurts. Hee-Ra sits up and asks Chukbuk where she is. She tells her that this is her house. They carried her here after she collapsed. From the doorway, Gamdol says he is glad she woke up as Chukbuk was extremely worried. He invites her to eat together as he has cooked something delicious. On the other side of the door, Chukbuk's mom just keeps glaring at her. The ramen is delicious enough to move Gamdol to tears. As they can't eat this every day anymore, it's a rare delicacy. And this is the first time Chukbuk is eating ramen, and she loves it. Hee-Ra asks what happened to her clothes and whose clothes is she wearing now. As her clothes were covered in blood, they washed it. And right now, she is wearing Chukbuk's mom's clothes. But Hee-Ra thinks they are childish. Gamdol can't help but be mesmerized by Hee-Ra's muscular body covered in scars. It is clear that she has fought numerous battles and she is not a normal person. Chukbuk is done with her food and asks Hee-Ra to play with her. Although she has a lot of games in her mind, they can't play all of them. Hee-Ra noticed her blue finger, which doesn't have a long nail anymore. Gamdol tells Chukbuk that they will play with her when they are done eating. Until then, go to your room and count to 100. Chukbuk goes to her room and starts counting. Hee-Ra asks if they clipped Chukbuk's nail to make it shorter. But Gamdol tells her that it was shorter the next day without them doing anything. They will figure out what is happening to her when they reach the Hope Village. However, the cannibal tribe is after them, so it will not be safe for them even after they reach the village. So Gamdol asks Hee-Ra to accompany them and protect them until they return from the Hope Village. But she rejects his request. Even if they think that she is their comrade, she does not care about them. The only one she cares about is Chukbuk, and she is only going to protect her. Gamdol says that's fine. He can take care of himself. Chukbuk's mom tells Gamdol that's reckless. How can he fight alone? But he tells her he will be fine. She still doesn't know why Hee-Ra is so obsessed with Chukbuk as if she was her own daughter. Then Chukbuk comes and calls them liars for not coming to find her even though she is done counting to 100. Then she goes to Hee-Ra and asks her to play with her, and she agrees. But then her mom grabs her arm and Hee-Ra grabs her other arm. Her mom tells Hee-Ra that she is her daughter. If she wants to play mother, then go find someone else. They enter a standoff for Chukbuk. Here, Gamdol is glad that Hee-Ra is coming with them. Now they just need a vehicle. But he will think about that after he is done with the food. Hee-Ra and Gamdol go outside to find a functional vehicle. But even after looking through all the vehicles in the area, they had no luck so far. If they go any further, they might encounter more survivors, and it might be dangerous. Hee-Ra asks him if he is planning on doing nothing while Chukbuk's symptoms are getting worse. Of course, that's not the case for Gamdol, but he has to exercise caution while moving forward. He asks her to get behind, and he will lead the way as her injuries are still not fully healed. Hee-Ra comes close to him and starts kicking his leg, saying to not overestimate himself and get behind her. Even though he is grateful for her help, she is just too brutal. At this rate, he might die before they reach the village. But for now, they have to focus on getting a vehicle before Chukbuk's symptoms get any worse. Then they hear a woman's voice screaming for help, and someone asking her to keep quiet. Hee-Ra asks Gamdol to ignore it and focus on finding a vehicle. But Gamdol can't help but think about helping her. This enrages Hee-Ra. Even though they neither have the strength nor the time to be thinking about other people, he is still wasting his time. She grabs his collar and tells him to focus on Chukbuk. But Gamdol says he has a plan. A few minutes ago, a young woman was being chased by a group of 3 people with weapons in their hands. She passes through a door but unfortunately ends up in a washroom. And now she is tied up. They caught her as a hostage they can exchange for food at Hope Village. Now they just have to kill the big guy who was with her and steal his car. But in case the village did not want her, they will throw her away after having some fun. The thin, ugly guy gets close to her and says he will not mind if they refuse to take her, as then she will be his to play with. He hears a noise and turns around to find his friends held by their neck by Gamdol. Gamdol kicks him and lets them out, but Hee-ra is not as forgiving. She punches the bald man in front and asks them to hand over everything they have. They try to fight back, but it was pointless. The young girl thanks them for their help. She introduces herself as Young Hee-go. Gamdol heard the talk between her and the kidnappers earlier and asks her if she is from the Hope Village, to which she says yes. Hee-ra gets a little frustrated that his judgment to help her was correct. He tells Young-hee that he is looking for the village as they have some business there. The girl is delighted to hear this, as strong people like them are always welcome in the Hope Village. Today was her first time going out for promoting the village. She gives him a pamphlet drawn by crayons and tells him that the principal and instructor will be happy to have them. At that moment, someone enters the room and immediately attacks them. But because of her Ra's quick reflexes, no one was harmed. The muscular man asks them if they are with the kidnappers as well, and if they are, let the girl go. If not, he will chop them up to pieces. Young-hee tells the man who turns out to be her instructor that they were the ones who saved her. She apologizes to him for not following him closely. The instructor says he is glad to see she is not hurt. But Gamdol notices that she is scared and is trembling. Also, the instructor is putting a lot of strength in his grip over her shoulder, and even though she is clearly in pain, he is not letting go. Gamdol grabs his hand and removes it from Young-hee's shoulder. Tension rises in the atmosphere as both instructor and Hee-ra get ready to fight. But Gamdol has other plans. He shakes instructor's hand and says he heard a lot about him in Hope Village from Young-hee, and she did a fantastic job of promoting the village to them. He looks at Young-hee for confirmation, and she nods, trying to make him believe. It works, and he introduces himself. His name is Soo-min Baek, an instructor at the Hope Village. Gamdol asks him if it is possible for his family to visit the village as his daughter is sick, and he introduces Hee-ra as his wife. Although this makes her quite angry, she plays along for the time being. Instructor says they have a doctor that can take a look at her, but the problem is he have to pay a fees to enter the village. But they have already prepared it, so it's fine. For now, they go back to the village to deliver this news. Instructor asks them to meet tomorrow at the front of this building. Before leaving, Young-hee thanks Gamdol for his help. Then he got kicked at the back of his leg by Hee-ra because he called her his wife. At this rate, he really might die before they reach the village. The instructor's arm is still in pain from when Gamdol grabbed it. Although he is confident in his strength, Gamdol was on another level, and his wife had experience in fighting as well. Both of them are just the kind of people that the village needs, and more importantly, the founder will be pleased to have them as his pawns. At home, Gamdol is packing the essentials for their trip, while Hee-ra is just standing there nagging him. Chukbuk's mom wrapped her finger with bandage as to not attract any attention. However, she is still worried. She asks her if there is anything else she needs, but Gamdol has already packed everything, so she doesn't. But what if there are many bad people there? Then Hee-ra will beat them up for Chukbuk. Then what about her sleep? She can't sleep without listening to lullaby Hee-mother sings, so she must go with her. Although she is trying to find an excuse to go with them, it is definitely not possible. After all, a monster with blue skin will not be welcomed in a human settlement. Some people might call it racism, but it's just common sense. Looking at his wife worrying about her family, Gamdol tries to comfort her by saying, they are not going to stay there for a long time, and he promises her that they will be back quickly. While leaving, Hee-ra gives her a smirk grin, which pisses her off. She thinks about the possibility if she were a normal human, she would have been able to go anywhere with her family. However, right now, she has her own business to take care of. She focuses and she can feel the tentacle of Father inside her body. Father finds her location and asks the cannibal tribe members to be ready for attack. Now, aside from the pincer girl, there are 3 more people. Gamdol, Hee-ra, and Chukbuk are now in a van driven by the instructor. The van is similar to a police van transporting prisoners, as it has bars separating driver from passengers. It is a protocol for visitors coming to the village to be transported like this as they might be infected. Gamdol asks him if the doctor in the village is skilled. Although he might be a little odd, he is one of the necessary people in the village. Hearing this made Gamdol have high expectations of the doctor. After some time they reach the village. Instructor tells them that the villagers are there to greet them, and when they get off, leave their luggage behind. They will get it back after the inspection. Gamdol asks Hira to not let her guard down and to get her act together. But she is as grumpy as ever, and says he is the one who needs to get his act together. Meanwhile, the clueless Chuckbuck is sucking her thumb. Gamdol reminds Chuckbuck to act the play they practiced before. She goes to Hira and says, "Mommy, I am scared." Hearing her say "Mommy," Hira gets flustered and forgets her lines for a moment. After Gamdol pushes her once, she says that she is going to protect her to the end. Now inside the village, they are finally allowed to get off. Gamdol opens the door to find a bunch of people excitedly waiting for them. Among them is also the girl they met the other day. Instructor asks them to not be too surprised as they are here because they are really curious. He asks them to not feel uncomfortable as they are all nice people. But for them, this is really annoying. An elderly man comes and introduces himself as Hyung Jun Kim, the principal, and also in charge of this village. He takes them to take a little tour of the village while the people unload their stuff. The village has a very homely feeling and there are many people, which is unexpected considering there are monsters outside everywhere. The principal tells them it's all thanks to the hard work of the people. In the span of 5 years, this village was established. It was hard at first and people fought very easily. But now they are inseparable members of their family. Principal points to a door which has hospital written on it. He says although it looks a bit shabby, this is the place of Dr. O. The principal takes his leave, leaving them outside the door. Gamdol feels something odd about this village, and Hira shares his feeling. The entrance is unguarded, and there are no light to keep the monsters away. Moreover, no one here is armed with any weapons. This village does not have a proper security. But for now, their priority is to treat Chuckbook, then get out of here as soon as possible. They enter the doctor's office and the lights are not working. As it is built in a basement, there is complete darkness without lights. Chuckbuck goes near the bed and falls down after hitting her leg at something under the bed. From under the bed, something scary asks her, "Who is she?" Chuckbuck's fear causes her fingernail to come out again, and she thrusts it towards the scary monster. The principal and instructor are discussing what they will do with Hira, Gamdol, and Chuckbuck. Principal asks instructor to not hit the little girl like other kids, as the founder is interested in meeting her. Their fates will be decided after the Foods Day event happening tonight, which can be considered as a test for the newcomers. But if they refuse to stay in the village even after passing the test, they will simply have to kill them and take their stuff. His attention goes to 2 people arguing down. A man who is also new in the village is asking someone how he can avoid monsters while threatening him with a knife. The principal expresses his excitement for tonight's event, back near Chuckbuck. The monster she stabbed is unharmed. It grabbed her hand and asks her again who she is and why she is here. But before she can answer, Hira drags it out from under the bed, and while holding an axe over his head asks him who he is. The man, while trembling, says he is the doctor here. Gamdol apologizes for Hira and Chuckbuck. As they had no intention to harm him, they were simply unaware that someone would be sleeping in such a place. The doctor thought he is making an excuse and putting the blame onto him for sleeping in such an odd spot. What's more, they killed his beloved body pillow, Duldal. Gamdol says he will make it up to him later somehow. As he is the doctor here and his daughter needs treatment, he has no choice but to suck up to him. Doctor says first Hira and Chuckbuck have to apologize to him. When they don't do it, he gets mad. Although this makes Hira quite angry, she still apologized for Chuckbuck's sake, although with a tone that's not very apologetic. Because of this, Doctor asks them to get out without treating Chuckbuck, but Gamdol asks him to just take a look at his daughter's finger once. When he saw her finger, he could not believe what he was looking at, although he has no idea what it is because of the nature and rarity of her case. What he does know is that this is not normal. Normally, a person gets infected when they are bitten, or the blood of the monster gets in their body through a wound or some other means. But there are no scars on her finger. and the infected part is limited to only her finger. However, he can't be confident that it will remain there. So he suggests to monitor her while they are in the village. Gamdol thinks, although she hasn't been bitten by any infected monster. But her mom is an infected person, and Chukbuk has drank her milk and lived with her since she was born. However, he can't tell this to the doctor. He asks doctor to keep Chukbuk's condition a secret from everyone. Normally this isn't allowed, but since he wants to learn more about her condition, he agrees to it. When Chukbuk with a sad expression asks Gamdol if what she has is bad, Gamdol could not say anything. When they go outside, Chukbuk plays with sand, and Gamdol and Hee-ra sit and discuss their future plans. Although they went through great trouble in bringing Chukbuk here, now they are back at square one. When Chukbuk asked Gamdol with those sad eyes, he couldn't tell her that she will be fine. He doesn't understand what should he do now. Hee-ra tells him to just stay with her. Even if he is in the worst possible situation, he must support her so that she doesn't fall. That's the job of a parent. This motivates Gamdol a little and he stands up, although they still don't have a concrete plan in mind. For now, they need to collect some information in order to move forward. Chukbuk's stomach growls and they decide to go eat food for now. And while they were unaware, Young-hee is watching them by the order of the principal. He told her to keep an eye on them with the excuse of they might be a threat to the village. She was happy that the principal was showing trust in her and went to spy on them. From outside the door of the hospital, she saw Chukbuk's finger, and it was clear to her that it wasn't an injury, but something similar to an infected person. She suspects that the principal might have predicted this, and that's why he sent her here, just when she was about to go and tell him. A hand grabs her shoulder from behind. She panics and slaps the hand away. When she turns around, she finds her mom there, who is surprised to see her spying on the visitors. Young-hee lies and says she was just taking a walk and not spying on anyone. However, this doesn't convince her mother. She asks her if she is doing it because principal told her to do this, even though she has told her to not listen to them. Even the other day, she went out to promote the village without asking. However, Young-hee wants to be acknowledged as a useful person by the villagers and receive a miracle from the principal like her mother. Her mother gets furious upon hearing this and starts punching her, as that is not a miracle, but more of a curse. Young-hee runs away and says, as her mother, she should let her do whatever she wants. If her dad were still alive, he would have been proud of her. This makes her mom even more angry to the point that she starts throwing stones and curses at her, just like my mother when I failed 10th grade. However, she manages to get away from her mom, for now at least. Upon taking a closer look at the woman, we can see that she doesn't have her right arm. At the village cafeteria, Gamdol gets emotional after eating sausage soup and jokingly suggestions to stay here forever. Chukbuk is also excited to bring her mom here. However, Hee-ra gets angry at him for saying this, and tells him to stay alone as it is not a safe place. Chukbuk. She is still worried about Chukbuk. If something were to happen to her, she will not let her mother go. Then they are joined by the principal at the table. He asks them if they like the food here. Gamdol tells him he does and he never expected to see sausages here. Principal tells him it's only possible because they have farms, and he promises to show him around next time. That reminds Gamdol about the dark hospital room, and he asks him if they have electricity here. Principal tells him, as they do not have enough generators and fuel. They don't use electricity until it's absolutely necessary. Principal asks him if the doctor was able to treat Chukbuk, but Gamdol tells him that doctor said it will take some time. However, Principal glances at Chukbuk's finger, which implies he has been informed by Young-hee about it. Principal asks them if they will join him for a walk outside the village tonight. As they have a lot of people, they go outside once a week to get some food. However, at night there are monsters outside, so how are they planning to stay alive? But Principal tells them that that's exactly the reason they go outside at night. As the monster leave the buildings, they can go inside and get the food without being attacked. Hee-ra, without any hesitation, points out his stupidity. Even if the monsters leave the building, they simply can't avoid running into them outside. Gamdol apologizes instead of Hee-ra, and says she is a little sensitive because of her daughter and not good with jokes. However, Principal says this is not a joke, as tonight he will show them the miracle of the food's day. In the next part, Find out what this so-called miracle is. Until then, click on this video.